Hey everyone, hope you've all been enjoying the trails this summer. I gotta be honest, leading group hikes is a blast, but capturing all the amazing memories can be a challenge. That's where our new podcast sponsor, the Cameo Journal, comes in. This thing's built for travelers and hikers by fellow adventurers. It's a pocket-sized rugged journal designed for you to collect up to 100 entries from all your trailmates, your life guests, and anyone else you meet along the way. Basically, it can be a guest book for your travels and an awesome keepsake. Logan over at the Cameo Journal is a backpacker himself and put all his love for travel into the design. So if you're looking to level up your hiking adventures, head over to thecameojournal.com to grab one not just for yourself, but for your crew too. Welcome everyone to the Hikes and Mics podcast. I'm your host Ivan, and together we'll embark on a weekly journey connecting with extraordinary hikers from all corners of the U.S. and beyond. Throughout these summer months, we've had the privilege of conversing with some remarkable individuals. Their experiences and adventures will leave you yearning to hit the trails. In today's episode, we have three amazing hikers from the BLK Hiking Clubs in Atlanta and Raleigh-Durham. Tracy, who founded the BLK Hiking Club, is joined by the Atlanta chapter president, Anna, and the RDU chapter president, Marquise. You can follow each of the chapters on Instagram at BLK Hiking Club, BLK HIKING CLUB, and BLK Hiking Club RDU. They share with us the origin story of the BLK Hiking Club and the expansion to RDU, some of their favorite memorable hikes in and around their neck of the woods, and how they're setting the vibes for their club members both on and off the trails. Without further ado, let's jump into this episode with our guests, Tracy, Anna, and Marquise. Welcome everyone to the latest episode of the Hikes and Mics podcast. I have a really special episode with us today. We're going to be talking to the founders and presidents of the BLK Hiking Club from Atlanta and Raleigh-Durham. Thank you, Tracy, Anna, and Marquise for joining us on the podcast today. We always like to start off by having our guests share a little bit about themselves and how they got started hiking.
Yeah, so once again, Tracy Stevens. I'm from Athens, Georgia. I've been hiking since 2018. For me, it started off as a Memorial Day weekend trying to figure out what I was going to do. My boss told me that I should come to the mountains. And of course, like many Black people, I was victim of that stigma. Black people don't hike. So I ended up going up there. And what I thought was supposed to be me and him hiking together, it was me hiking by myself. I wasn't going to show up. So the first place I actually went to was Brasstown Bald, which is the highest point in Georgia. It's a mile straight up. It'll take all the breath out of you. But when I got to the top, you above the clouds, it was just beautiful. And so in that moment, I was like, okay, I see why people like this. And then that same day, I went to Bell Mountain, which was about 30 minutes from there. And you can drive up half of it, and then you can walk the other half and walk up some stairs. And it's just beautiful, like the view that it looked out on. And in that moment, I fell in love with hiking. And it was something I stuck with. And it turned into me trying to convince my friends to come with me. Some would come, some wouldn't. And I just fell in love with it. It brought me a lot of peace of mind, and it brought us here today, being on this episode with you. So I've appreciated my hiking journey and what it's done for my life.
So for me, I'm Anna. I was in the Army Reserves, and of course, being outdoors and hiking with the backpack and things of that nature is a requirement for you to graduate basic training. And so that was my initial introduction into it. In basic, it was a lot more strenuous than what I experience right now, but I got that introduction and I was like, oh, this is kind of cool, being outdoors. Fast forward, I came home, I was dating a guy, and we just decided to try to do a hike to see, something different. And so we got into it and I was like, this is kind of cool. I like it. And so that was like my real introduction into doing it, because he and I would hike together sometimes. And then I started branching off to do solo hiking. And then I bought a house in Atlanta, found the club, and then everything else is pretty much history. I've been here ever since.
Hey, I'm Marquise Cunningham. president of the Raleigh-Durham chapter in North Carolina. I'm actually from Georgia. I moved from Georgia to North Carolina. Been here a couple years. I got into hiking. I used to do some just one-off things probably throughout the 2010s. Wasn't really a I am a hiker deal until the pandemic hit, and I was actually living in San Antonio at the time. And so I started off like a lot of folks, going on a bunch of walks around my neighborhood because I was like, I just need to get out of the house. I have to see something besides, these walls and the same TV that I'm looking at. And got bored with that, started branching out into some neighborhood parks. And then that turned into me going to a bunch of different state parks around my section of Texas and central sub-southern Texas. And so got into that then, and was hiking solo for most of my time there until I moved back home to Georgia and came across the Black Hiking Club.
One thing that I noticed when I was researching for this episode is how many beautiful places there are in Georgia, and each of you have a connection to Georgia and now North Carolina. How would you describe the hiking scene in and around your local neck of the woods?
The hiking scene in Georgia, I feel like, is very slept on. Of course, the AT Trail starts in Georgia, so I don't get why people would think that hiking here isn't a big thing, because it is. And we have some amazing trails, whether you go to the North Georgia mountains and you want the scenic mountain views or to check out the waterfall, to even if you go south of Atlanta, we have Providence Canyon, which is considered the Little Grand Canyon of the South. And it's beautiful. You get a little bit of everything here. And it's just amazing to see how much hiking culture has grown, especially within the Black community. It's like all these Black groups continue to pop up. And it's just amazing to think that in 2021, when the club started, it was maybe like 2 or 3 other groups. To now, I probably see like 15 to 20. And I'm happy that the culture is continuing to grow for hiking within our community.
Yeah, I agree. I think for the state of Georgia itself, it's kind of considered a hidden gem. And I say that because, like Tracy said, there's so many different areas here where you can go and visit. We have waterfalls, we have mountain views. There's some where it's just trails and, you don't really get to see a huge overlook, but there's still something special about being out. So for me, that's just kind of my description of it. I think there's a lot of areas that people don't know exist. And there's so many other trails that we've been blessed to be able to offer to the hikers, because they probably would have never been if we hadn't put it on our schedule for them to go to.
So in North Carolina, it's significantly different. In my 2 years here, there is not an underappreciation for the outdoor scene. North Carolina is a lot different from Georgia in that, first, when you talk about the western half of the state, which is what a lot of people think of when they think of outdoor activities in the state. You've got Asheville, proximity to Gatlinburg. There's a lot of stuff that runs over there. And so that area is really known for its hiking. In the section of the state I'm in, which is called the Piedmont section, central North Carolina, hiking isn't, because of the way that there's a culture in the state around investment in local and state parks. Everyone knows about parks. It just depends on what activities they're into. And so being in my part of the state, everyone knows about the hiking that's out Charlotte and further. What I've been able to do, and that's really nice, is show people what we have in our backyard and seeing this nice things 10 minutes away from you. You're not going to get a grand scenic view where you're overlooking a whole area, but we've got lots of places that have really nice running water scenes, which is my favorite thing to have, as well as just places that are good for, I can go on a 5-10 mile hike just by going to this one park in the area because of the way the trails are laid out. So it's a lot different here in North Carolina, and it's giving me a different type of appreciation, because down in Georgia, they've got the mountains. I do miss those North Georgia mountains and the hikes that we did there, but North Carolina also has a lot to offer, even in my part of the state.
Yeah, the more I talk to people in the Southeast, the more I realize Hidden Gem describes it perfectly, because you guys have some exceptional waterfall hikes and just water features, like you were saying, Marquise. Some of these hikes, you don't have to travel that far in order to reach some really great water features, whether it's waterfalls or just streams and rivers. I'm wondering, for each of you personally, do you have any favorite trails or parks that you like to go hiking in?
Yeah, so for me, hands down, Fort Mountain State Park is my favorite trail to go to in Georgia. They have 2 overlooks that are beautiful, favorite spots to go, hands down. And if I had to pick a waterfall trail, I would say Lula Lake Land Trust. That was where me and Marquise actually first met. That waterfall is amazing. like beautiful. It's hitting, rainbows just going everywhere. It's a sight to see.
So I have 3. Mount Yona is my first. That is one of the hardest trails to hike in Georgia, but it's one of my favorites because of the fact that 1, it's tough. 2, Army Rangers do train there as well. So of course it's close to home for me because of the military. But once you get to the top, it's like you had to travel so long, what it feels like to get to the top. And once you get there, there's this amazing, beautiful view. The outlook is it's something that I've never seen before. So like I said, people think I'm crazy, but that's definitely one of my favorites. My second is Cloudland Canyon. That one is because you kind of get the best of both worlds. So you get waterfall, but then you also get a beautiful overlook where you can see like the mountains and things like that. During the fall, both of those are beautiful because you get to see all of the fall colors. And then my third one is Providence. That one was actually my very first hike with Black Hiking Clubs, but we also call it like Little Grand Canyon. So you get to go and there's these different canyons that you can view. It's something that I've never seen before. So those are my favorite.
For me, I'll do a shout out back to Georgia. My favorite I would go to is Sweetwater Creek State Park. That was one I would wake up in the morning, hop in the car and go, because it's one of those you can actually, if you're willing to, go out into the middle of the rapids of the river and just sit, which is actually why one of my favorites here is Raven Rock State Park in Littleton, North Carolina. And that one, depending on what section you go to, you can be either under Raven Rock, which is a nice spot that runs along the Cape Fear River, or a different part of the state park that still runs along the Cape Fear River that you can kind of go out to, similar to the Sweetwater Creek that I mentioned that's in Georgia, and just be in the middle of like this really wide opening of the river and just hear the water. My runner up is going to be Eno River State Park, the Fuse Forward access. State parks in North Carolina exist in like chunks of land, not just one contiguous piece. So sometimes you have to remember the access point. And that one has a spot that's not even a 5-minute walk from the parking lot where the water is running and you can go just sit up there. It's nice. If you go a little further down, maybe 50 yards, you can get in the water. It's maybe 3-4 feet deep. You'll feel the little fish like nibbling on you. It's a little ticklish, but it's really nice. I'm a huge fan of running water because if I can go and sit and listen to the water, that helps me relax.
Oh, I'm right there with you, Marquise. I think that's my favorite type of like white noise, is being able to have just like a creek or a stream playing in the background, and definitely what I gravitate to here in the Pacific Northwest. Now, you guys have been building this wonderful community in both North Carolina and Georgia, and I'm wondering if you can share a little bit about its origin story and what inspired you to create and form the Black Hiking Club.
Yeah, so as I mentioned earlier, a lot of times when I would hike, I would always try to convince my friends to go with me, but a lot of them it wasn't their thing. So I felt like it was just best to keep going. And so with that, I got to a point where I would do these hikes at the beginning of the year. And back in 2021 of January, I was hiking with one of my friends, and it was Pine Mountain in Cartersville, Georgia. The more you go outside of the metro Atlanta area, it can get a little, traumatizing, being Black, because you see the Confederate flags and all the other political propaganda, and it can make you feel uneasy. So when we got to the top of the mountain, there was a Black woman sitting up there by herself, and she just looked disturbed. And me and my friend had walked over to her and just asked her, "Hey, what's going on? You okay?" Because we were the only people of color at the top. And so in that moment, she was like, "I just feel like I don't belong here." And I understood how she felt. It's been plenty of trails I went to, and I was like, I don't know if I should be out here. But in that moment, it led me to ask her, "Hey, how would you feel if it was a hiking group for Black men and women? It's a safe space. We can enjoy nature together." And she was like, "I would love that." I went down the mountain that day and I told my friend, "I'm starting a hiking club." And what's crazy is I had the logo for Black Hiking Club already made, but pandemic hit. And so I was like, I'll come back to it when I'm supposed to. And of course, perfect timing with that taking place. And so in that moment, I created the social media page, just started following a bunch of my friends who had no ties to the outdoors, but it was a way to build up the followers. And that April was hosting the first hike. And what was so crazy is that it poured down raining. I had like 40 people sign up, 12 still showed up. And we hiked through the rain and we get to the top of the mountain, and I kid you not, you couldn't see anything. It was just clouds. And all I could think in that moment is these people are never coming back to another hike. This is probably it. And so did that second hike comes around, it gets canceled because of the rain. And I'm just like, I got to stay with it. I'm going to keep going. I'm going to keep going. And sure enough, stuck with it. Black Hikers Week came around. Me and Marquise connect via Instagram. And I still remember the message of him telling me, hey, I'm coming to the Lula Lake Land Trust hike. And I was like, dude, you got to buy tickets and they're sold out. And sure enough, I show up and Marquise got in. I don't know how he got in, but he was there. He was there and stuck with it from there. And so fast forward later that July, we do the hike at Providence Canyon and I see this black Toyota Corolla in front of me flying. And I'm like, who is this? I was like, I know this isn't one of my hikers driving like this to the state park. Sure enough, we pull in next to each other. It's Anna. And in that moment, that was my introduction to Anna, as well as my other hiking leader, Kendra. And the energy was there. And from that moment moving forward, it was Anna, Marquise, Kendra. Like, those were my introductions to my like first leaders that I met. In that moment, I didn't know they would be leaders, but they just stayed consistent. And sure enough, we got through that season. And I'll never forget a full circle moment, November 6th of 2021, we hiked at Pine Mountain where the dream was born. And I asked Marquise and Anna to become hiking leaders that day. And so they became leaders. 2022 comes around and life changed for all of us. I moved, Marquise moved, and Anna was left to run Black Hiking Club in Georgia. And Anna, I'm sure you have so much you can say about this transition when me and Marquise hit you with the unexpected.
I'll just say I was caught off guard. I will say that. I know when Tracy mentioned he was leaving, I was like, oh, I still have Marquise here. And at that time, I was still a little quieter than I am now. I'm still quiet from time to time, but I always tell people I'm an introvert and people are like, no, like you're a talker. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to kind of warm up to you before I become that talker. So Marquise, I was used to kind of being up under him because he was the one that would take the lead and do the talking. So I didn't have to do it. So Tracy said he was leaving. And then it was like, next hike, Marquise said he leaving. And I was like, well, what we gonna do? So it really put me in a situation to where I had to step up because I will say when I did my very first hike at Providence, I was like, it's cool. Like Tracy always says how a lot of hikers feel like they found their tribe. And that's sort of how I felt coming into it. And so just being able to be in a space with people that look like me, meeting new people, and we could just kind of connect on the trails, I thought that was really cool. So when it put me in that situation, I was just like, no, we got to keep this going. So I don't know what I need to do, but I'm going to step up. I stepped up. I had Kendra to kind of help back me up. So that was definitely a plus because like Tracy said, she and I met at Providence together. So we already knew each other, but we just kind of kept it going from there. And it was a lot of conversations with Tracy on a weekly basis, trying to figure out what I needed to do and how I needed to operate it. And I was nervous because I had never led a hike with other people before. Hiking solo is one thing. You get lost on the trails, it's fine. It's just you. You can find your way back. But leading a group was so different because I kept thinking, everybody's now depending on me. And if I leave somebody or we get lost, now it's going to look bad because I got us lost on the trail. So appreciate that moment though, because it did help me grow tremendously with, being in the forefront and just learning how to navigate and kind of get out of my comfort zone of being so nervous with talking to people that I don't know and being that shy person. But yeah, in that moment, I was like, I don't know what we going to do.
And, Marquise, you ended up leaving in 2022, right, to North Carolina. And how was it starting the North Carolina chapter there in Raleigh-Durham?
It was different. I remember when I was coming up on leaving Georgia, and the last hike I was at, I believe, was Ruby Falls. It was one of our ones where we actually do 2 locations in one day. And I remember talking to Tracy about it. I was like, you know what? I'll start a chapter up there. But I was still dealing with the hit of like, oh, wow, I'm leaving the place where I finally got other Black people to hike with. And so I moved and I'm like, okay, I'm going to wait for a while, get oriented in my new job, learn the area. And 3 months in, I go on a hike with another organization. I was talking with the leader and he noticed. He was like, "Oh, you got the Black Hiking Club shirt." He's like, "You're royalty." I was like, "What?" It threw me off guard. He's like, "You gonna be starting a chapter again? Oh, go ahead and talk to everyone." And so I talked about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm gonna start a chapter at some point." And multiple people came up to me afterwards and said, "I think it's really cool that you're gonna be starting a club specifically for Black people, because this group I was with is one that was founded for Black people, but it's not exclusively for Black people." And so I started the chapter up. I think I made the Instagram like a week later. I called Tracy and I said, "Tracy, I was planning on waiting a little longer, but it just feels like it's here now." And then I did the first hike at Okanichi Mountain in Hillsborough, it's just outside of Durham, North Carolina. And I expected, I'm going to have 2, 3 people. I had 6 people. I was like, oh, okay. Expectations exceeded. And then by the time I did my 5th or 6th hike, I was around 20. And then in February, I had a hike with 40 people. And this is me running the club by myself. Tracy and Anna, y'all may remember that morning because that was a morning both chapters had a hike, and I was texting the group with all the hikers. And I was like, "Y'all, there's more people coming." I was like, "I think I'm gonna hit 40." It was just so exciting for me, and I really enjoyed it because the club up here hits on a completely different than the one in Atlanta does. Here in the Triangle, as we call it, the Raleigh, Durham, Chapel Hill section of North Carolina, there are Black people, but there aren't a lot of Black things, and the concentration of Black people is not as large. And so the club here satisfies a need for having a particular type of thing that we don't see a lot of Black people doing. And it helps people see like, oh, there's a way to get into this where I don't have to worry about either feeling like I'm unprepared or about some really uncomfortable racially motivated situation happening.
Now, one thing that caught my attention from your guys' website is the club's core values, which makes up the acronym PEACE. Are you able to share a little bit about how those club values kind of came to be and the meaning behind each letter?
Yeah. So like the P is passion, E is empower, A is accountability, C is community, and E is evolving. For us, we just really wanted to show our community that when you come and you're with Black Hiking Club, it's a peaceful experience. We just wanted to really show people we're passionate about what we do. We're going to empower you when you are on these trails, but we also going to hold you accountable. Because, a lot of times we get all these people who are new to this space and they don't necessarily understand maybe the trail etiquette or leave no trace. And so for us, we just try to do what we can to make sure our hikers know, like, we're not going to be that audience out here on the trails. We're going to show up, we're going to show out, but we're going to do it in a nice and respectful way. And because we've had those moments, if I'm going to be honest with you, where people just assume the worst because it's a bunch of Black people out on the trails, and we're here to show them, like, yeah, keep your stereotypes to yourself. Like, that's not us. Like, we're bigger than that. And before I dive into the C, I dive into evolving. Like, we're constantly evolving. As Marquise mentioned, it's different for both chapters, but just to see where each chapter started to where it's at, changing every week, I would say. Like, it's something different, whether it's dealing with different hikers, dealing with other hiking groups, or even just organizations. It's always something going on. But with community, that's where our heart is. We do a lot to make sure we give back to our communities. Is helping out with the trails that we use, or it's us doing a scholarship giveaway, back to school drive, adopting kids for the holidays, like helping them out. Before I started the club, I started another organization called Dreams to Kings and Queens, which was focused around helping kids, providing them with the academic resources they need to be successful in the classroom. So me having that passion, I made sure to bring that to Black Hiking Club. And what made it even better were people like Marquise, Anna, my hiking leader, Marshall, and many others that had that passion for a community and wanting to make a difference. So we really lean into that to show people that, like, our community is family. Like, it's bigger than that. And I'll tell anybody, is like, my hiking leaders, they ain't just hiking leaders. Like, this is family. Like, we're close. We argue like family, but we still love each other at the end of the day. And I'm sure Anna can vouch for this. We'll go to war over each other if we have to as well. Like, we got each other's backs. And so I'm thankful for that. And like what we built here in Atlanta, Marquise has done the same. And I know he ain't going for no shenanigans. So it's just beautiful to see that, like, we have this community and this love like this.
And I think the outdoor community has definitely seen an increase in folks going out, especially post-pandemic, and enjoying the outdoors over the last couple of years, including BIPOC community members. But I think across the nation, there's still a huge need for BIPOC hiking groups or just hiking groups in general in order to get people outdoors. I'm wondering, based on your personal experience hiking and with the group, do you have any advice for BIPOC community members who are interested in taking hiking up this year?
My advice would be do it. Like, don't ask anybody. I know a lot of times when we're going to try something new, many of us will ask a family member or a friend and be like, what you think about doing this? For me, it's like, yo, go with your gut. If it's something you're interested in, try it out. Like we've all mentioned it throughout the podcast, is that there's little one-off trails where you only got to walk about half a mile. Go to that. Go to something short. Check it out. See how you like it. If you're not comfortable doing that, find a group. Find somebody who you feel comfortable hiking with, because we all have our tribes out here of who we want to hike with or what feels comfortable to us. So that would be my recommendation. Just do it.
Yeah, I have the same sentiments. Ain't nothing to it but to do it is how I feel about it. So, you'll never know if you really like it until you actually get out there and try it. You always hear that, oh, Black people don't hike and you're not going to see anybody else out there on the trails. But if you don't get out there to break that stigma, then how is it going to change? So, that person being the one person in that particular area where they are to start that hiking group may be what that area needs. There may be other people that, are interested in hiking, but they're scared to get out and hike by themselves. And that's something that we hear often from our hikers where they're like, I want to hike, but I don't want to hike solo. I'm scared to go alone. And us offering this space for them gives them the ability to get out and hike. So for me, just get out there and try it. See what it has to offer.
Yeah, definitely. Like Tracy and Anna said, go out there and try it. A great place to start is just look at your local city, counties, park website. It can give you the basic information you need. And I'm assuming here, but they might even appreciate you reaching out and saying, hey, I'm a little new to this, but I'm trying to get outside. What's something simple and short that I could try out that, I wouldn't feel like I'm in the middle of the woods? That's a really great thing to do. And then additionally, I'll bring up one of the things that is very common that I found in my chapter with RDU is that most of the people that I've talked to, there are people who have lived here a year. There are people who have lived here 15 plus. And even this past weekend on a hike, I had a person who lived here 15 years and said, since the pandemic, I have struggled to have community because we all were holed up. A lot of us went through a whole social reset. Some people moved. Some people just stuck to their indoor lives. A lot of folks are trying to find that community, and people have been able to find that I found through my chapter of the hiking club. That can also be your way if you decide to look up a group and find it and try something out with them. That might also help you find some people who are also into that same activity, or even talking to coworkers, your coworkers that you like and you'd be willing to hang out with. Because I am a person that does not assume that everyone is friends with their coworkers, because I don't think that's a requirement. But if you got some coworkers you like that, you do lunch with and you have a good time, just see if, hey, I was thinking about trying out going on a walk at this park. I saw it won't be in the middle of the woods. I already looked up the thing and, let's go try it out. And so I think that helps too. Because both chapters wholly exist because one of the most common things we hear is, I'm worried about being out there and I don't know what I'm doing. Consistent across both chapters.
Yeah, and I do want to add one more thing. If there are any potential new or first-time hikers, get AllTrails. AllTrails is like a lifesaver. You download it on your phone. It's literally like a GPS hiking related, and it guides you through the trail. So that's another little nugget that I would definitely recommend.
If you're not doing long hiking, the free version is enough. I guarantee you. I only have it paid because I lead group hikes.
Yeah, AllTrails is a great way to find local hikes. And some of the updates lately, they've been able to help you filter the difficulty, the length. Marquise, I'm glad you said it because it wasn't until last year where I finally started reaching out to the local ranger stations to get information about the trails or the region. And it never clicked that was an option to find out more information about where I was hiking. So yeah, really great advice, everyone. And if you have any questions, I think most of us on social media are more than happy to answer any questions. So if you do have any questions, feel free to reach out to the Black Hiking Club on Instagram or myself or any other hiking individuals that you follow on Instagram. one thing that you mentioned, Tracy, is evolution. And I think the website shows the beautiful evolution of the group. Because like I mentioned before we started recording, the camera angle has changed over the last couple hikes from being cropped in to using the wide angle, and now having large group hikes where you need a drone to capture everybody. It is really beautiful to see. I'm wondering if each of you have a memorable hike that you can share from each of your chapters.
Yeah, so the most memorable hike for me, and I know Anna and Marquise will both remember this, March 12th, 2022, at Chiaha State Park. The weather, like, in Georgia, we never thought we would encounter this type of weather, but we literally get to the park and it's snowing. We thought, oh, we're clear. We're in the clear. Everything's going to be fine. Yeah, we get to Chiaha Mountain. We're like at the top part of it, and it's literally snowing. Like, wind is freezing cold. And all I could think to myself is, I don't know how we're going to make this happen, but we here. And at first it was just us, and then suddenly a bunch of hikers start showing up. And I was like, okay, I guess we doing this. And probably for like the first 30 minutes of the hike, the snow was still coming. I never shared this with any other hikers, so if they are listening to this episode, I was going the wrong way when we started, and I had to play it off because luckily Marquise had went the other way because he had to get some hikers, and I'm like, oh, we got to turn around, y'all. We got to go back and get Marquise and the rest of the hikers. Great pivot. And I remember Anna came to me and was like, you got lost, didn't you? And so I never forget that. I was like, man, this could have been bad. And we're just walking. It's snowy. We get to the first overlook. It's beautiful. It's nice. But then we get to that second one where it was more of a mountain light. And that wind was eating us up. And everybody was struggling. I'm talking struggling. We pushed through. But when we finished up that hike, I'll never forget everybody like huddled up underneath this little pavilion. And it's just like, yeah, y'all, we're not going to do no breakdown. We'll see y'all on the next go round. And I will never forget that hike. One, with how cold it was, but just the funny moments that we had, and thinking to myself is like, wow, this is what people out west have to deal with when they hike during the winter.
Tracy, didn't we have like 30 people show up to that hike?
We did.
It was very surprising given the temperature.
Yeah, because with the wind, it felt like 10 degrees out there. It was cold.
It was so cold. And then towards the end, we were like speed walking, trying to hurry up and get back to the pavilion. And it felt like we were never going to get there. It was so cold. So yeah. But I'm surprised Tracy didn't say the one that I thought that he would have said. One was one that we did. It was at West Palisades, and it was Mental Health Awareness Month. I think this was last year. And Tracy and I got together, and I'm the one that gets these random ideas. I get them in the middle of the night, early in the morning, late at night. And I will text Tracy like, oh, what do you think about this? So had this idea that we would give out like affirmation cards for mental health awareness. And so we gave the hikers the cards at the beginning. They came, they checked in, we greeted them and told them like, do not open the cards until we tell you to. And so midway into the hike, we did a brief wellness segment, and we told them after the wellness piece to open up their cards. And so they opened the cards, and you can just hear like the gasp on everybody's faces. And there were a couple of people that got a little emotional when they read the affirmation cards. And I remember afterwards, like so many people were coming up to us to say like, thank you. There's still some hikers to this day that have their cards, and they put them around different places in their homes. So I thought that was really special. That was definitely a big one for me because I'm big on mental health awareness. But my other one was we did Blood Mountain. And I got lost on the way to the hike, found the location, and had no phone service. And I was supposed to be leading that particular hike. So I couldn't tell the other leaders, like, y'all, I'm lost. I don't know where y'all are because I had no service. So they decided to go ahead and just, start the group without me. And thankfully, when I did find it, I had some other hikers that kind of got lost along the way too. So I said, well, you know what? We're just going to do our own little hike. If we find the group, great. If we don't find them, oh well, at least we still got the hike. So during the trail, there was one point, like one of the hikers spotted a bear and she freaked out. I didn't see the bear, but she saw it. And then there was another segment where some hikers that we like were walking towards told us, like, you guys be careful. There's a beehive up about a mile ahead. And if you're into hiking, you know, when you encounter a hiker that says about a mile, it's usually not a mile. It's like a mile and a half, 2 miles. So we kept walking like, where is this beehive? And we stopped to take a break. And all of a sudden, the hikers with me started screaming and they just started running full force. And I was like, what is it? What is it? Like, what's going on? And they were like, it's the bees. It's the bees. So the bees started stinging them. We made it to like this little 4-way. And I was like, oh my God, which way do we go? Because each tree had a white marker on it. And I had no idea which way to go. AllTrails was not working for me at the moment because I had no service. And at that time, I didn't download the map beforehand. So I said, you know what? We're just going to take this right. Like something just tells me to go this way. So we go to the right and I like randomly hear something. And I was like, what is that noise? So I stopped to kind of like scan the perimeter. And all of a sudden there were like 4 bears that just shot off like from my right side down to my left. And they ran down the mountain. And I was like, oh my God, y'all, there are bears out here. So that was my first bear encounter outside of a zoo. So I thought it was cool. But to me, I was like, okay, if the bears are here, then where's the mama? Like, what's going on? So we made it to the rest of the group. Finally, we did make it. But on the way back down, there was a bee that randomly started swarming me and like came up behind me and stung me on the back of my leg. And I have not been stung since I was a kid. So those are definitely my 2 most memorable hikes for sure.
Mine less eventful than Anna's, but mine is the first Black men's hike I did. So with RDU, every season I do a Black men's hike, and then once I finally got on enough women hiking leaders, we started doing Black women's hike as well. But the first one of these I ever did was April of 23 last year. And so I said I wanted to do this because a common thing between both chapters is that we don't see a lot of Black men come out unless they are with women partners. It's a very common thing. The ratio is really lopsided. As I've told Tracy and Anna, I tell my hikers, I say Black Hiking Club is functionally a Black women's hiking club. It just so happens that it was founded by a man, but without the Black women, the numbers would be very small, to say the least. And so this first Black men's hike, I always do a theme. And the first theme I did was joy and fulfillment. And so I started us off in the warm up. I did the question of how was your week, just to prime them for having some discussion. Most of us said, yeah, we were having rough week. Number of people, and there were, I think, 7 of us. A number of us said, yeah, I've been waiting for this hike because I just need some time to really get outside. We talked about was the last time you experienced joy and fulfillment? What types of things bring you joy and fulfillment? What are obstacles to you experiencing joy and fulfillment? And what are some small steps you can take to reduce how impactful those obstacles are? The thing I found through the hike was that everyone had those reference points of when they last felt joy and fulfillment, what brings it to them, and then things that we're currently struggling with. And our group ranged from the youngest was, I think, a 17 or 18-year-old in high school, came with his dad, to one of my regulars who is actually about to turn 80. He comes to almost every hike. And all of us had this shared experience of like what it meant for us to struggle in pursuit of joy and fulfillment. But also what came of the Black Men's Hike was multiple guys saying, so yeah, this is like different because I'm not used to being able to talk with a group of men about something that's not just like sport and it go more than like 5 minutes and it be meaningful conversation. And I was like, oh wow, this again, another unintended consequence of something I'm doing with the club. And the next day I remember I woke up, I was scrolling Instagram, and one of the guys, it was his first hike out with the club. He made a whole like 2-story post of text. And he talked about the impact and feeling of like getting together with Black men outdoors and seeing like the common both struggles and joys that we shared and how much it meant to him. And I sent him a message and I said, I really appreciate this. And it actually like made me start crying because I was like, oh, I am once again finding an unintended impact that I'm having with the club, but this one was different because with this, it was giving people an opportunity to talk about things that they are struggling with in a way that doesn't just center us around only the struggle. It's easy for us to stay stuck in the conversation of struggle and to never move into the step of celebration, enjoyment, or even, okay, so what can we do to control how much the struggle impacts us, even if we can't get rid of all of it? And so having that impact really meant a lot to me. And then that told me, I was like, okay, this was a great idea. Like, it's not why I wanted to do the Black Men's Hikes. And this is great. And the same thing happened the second time I did it. And I was like, wow, this is amazing. And so I could talk about the Black Men's Hikes forever and even tell you about some of the first Black women's hikes and what they told me about how it went and the impact it had. But that first one in particular, that Johnston Mill Nature Preserve, was definitely the most impactful hike I've had with the club.
I just got to give you guys your flowers, because one thing that really caught my attention, and both Anna and Marquise, you both touched on it, is the warm-ups. Before you even get on the trails, some of the activities and things that you guys do really builds community. And I recommend for listeners, if they get a chance, to check out the Atlanta chapter's IG and look up their story highlights that's labeled The Vibes, and you'll get a taste of what the groups are doing. And the affirmations, the discussions. The one that caught my attention was the pre-hike dance party to help hikers get ready to hit the trails. How would each of you describe the vibes on the trails with each of your chapters?
I would say it's beautiful. It's like a family reunion. That's when anybody asks me that question, that's how I describe it. Like, it takes me back to feeling like a kid again. Going to the country, being around my family is like, you're going to laugh, you're going to smile, you might even cry a little bit, but we're going to have a great time, and it's just going to be fun. And that's what it's about. Like, and that's why I love this community and this space that's been created, is because it's times where I know I wake up on the wrong side of the bed. People can't tell it, but I'm like, man, I'd rather be at home than to be at this hike. But you see the hiking leaders, you see the hikers, and it instantly changes your mood. And me and Marquise were talking about it yesterday, and it brings you back to say, I know why I'm doing this. And it's about the impact that we're making in the lives that we're changing. And so to be able to have this vibe has truly been special. But what makes the vibe even better is when you have family. Like, every leader has their own personality, whether somebody twerking, doing a line dance, whatever it may be, everybody gonna do something. Like, I can tell you for sure, if Black Hiking Club dropped a little album of us doing some karaoke, you'll be impressed. We got some singers on this team. We definitely have some singers. So yeah, the vibes, you can only imagine what it is when we hike.
Yeah, I agree. I would definitely say that it is a family reunion for sure. I have kind of implemented this thing where I now refer to the hikers of the hiking club as Black Hiking Club family. That's literally what I call them anytime I send them a message. Now, when we're on the trails and I do my little intro at the beginning, I'm like, well, hey, cousin, it's on you. Let's do this icebreaker. What's your name, cousin? So, it's to kind of bring in that camaraderie of this is one big family. When you guys come here, you can let your hair down and take your hat off if you're a guy, and you can literally be yourself and not worry about anybody, watching you or what they're going to think, what they're going to say or anything like that. I did chuckle when you mentioned the dance parties. I remember we were hiking somewhere and there was a little moment where we were taking a break or something. I'm the snacker, but I'm also the one that always has my speaker. But for me, I use it to help me be mindful of my pace so that when I am leading that I have a fast pace. So I use it to remind me, like, don't walk too fast, because like you said earlier, different hikers have different hiking speeds and different levels. And so you have to be mindful of that when you are leading a group. But we did a hike and I remember we stopped for a break or something and I had my speaker playing and there was like this line dance song that came on and somebody started dancing and it just kind of went from there. So we're definitely due for a dance party for sure. But we try to, if there's room, we try to at least do one every single hike. If not, beginning, in the middle. If we can't do it in the middle, we do it at the end. The hikers love it. So yeah, when you mentioned the dance party, I was like, yeah, I'll definitely check out that highlight for sure.
So RDU has a different type of feel of me. So we're a more like relaxed vibe. I think both chapters definitely, the feel of them represents the areas that they're in. So, Atlanta is known for being an eventful place. You've got all the stuff going on there. It's a place, you come to be lively, have a good time. it's more of a, you show up, folks decide to see each other, but we're more chill, easygoing. Folks are having a good time. I actually had a moment last weekend with the hike. I was like, oh man, I can hear the back of the line. I was like, oh, we're having a real good time today. But yeah, we're a little more quiet up here. And that's just I think that's a reflection of the type of place it is compared to Atlanta.
The description of a family reunion is a great way to capture what you guys are able to share on Instagram, because that's what it looks like and that's what it feels like. And yeah, I can't thank you guys enough for doing what you're doing and inspiring others to do it across the nation. We like to do a little segment here on the podcast where we do a deep dive into our guests' Instagrams and ask them about a specific location and post that captured our attention. For the Atlanta chapter, it was Tallulah Gorge, which just blew my mind on how beautiful it looks. And I can only imagine during the fall colors how much more it pops off. And for the Raleigh-Durham chapter, it was Pilot Mountain State Park and just its unique geological formations. Can each of you share a little bit about your experiences at Tallulah Gorge and Pilot Mountain?
Yeah, so Tallulah Gorge is a very beautiful place. It seems to be becoming one of those trails that a lot of first-time hikers are going to. I know when we talk to a lot of our audience, when they've hiked outside the city, they'll mention the Tallulah Gorge. What I love most about it, though, is that it's a mixture of a beginner trail meets moderate. And the moderate part comes in, and Marquise and Anna can definitely speak to this, is that those stairs are no joke. There is literally a big sign that says, warning, if you have heart problems, do not go down these stairs. And I want to say, think it's like, 800 something stairs that you go down, and you get down and you thinking like, oh, okay, I'm good. We at this swinging bridge, which is beautiful. And then you walk across the bridge and there's more stairs that goes down to the gorge floor. And it's like a nice, beautiful waterfall. Like I said, the views are amazing, but you're going to work for it. And especially coming back up, you can go back the same way, or you can go up the other side and come up and walk around the rim of the gorge. So it's one of those trails where I'm like, it's beautiful, but if you're looking to get your heart pumping and to feel like you're working out, like Tallulah Gorge is the trail for you. And I just love it. It's easy to assess or access. They have a lot going on within their visitor center. It's kind of like a museum in a way. And it's just beautiful. It's a great place where I would recommend to anybody in Georgia, especially if they're looking to see what else exists outside of the city. It's a great trail for that.
Yeah, I wish you guys could have seen my face when Ivan mentioned Tallulah, because yeah, the stairs are no joke. It is definitely beautiful. Again, that's one of those, if you go during the summer, it's awesome. If you go during the fall time, it's amazing as well. One thing about Tallulah that Tracy didn't mention, there's this really cool area where you can slide down this little water area. You do have to get a permit or something to do it, but that's something that's cool if you guys are interested. But the stairs will take you out. The swinging bridge, I know the first time that I did it, I have a fear of heights. And so I wasn't expecting for the bridge to like really swing, so to speak. So I was thinking like, oh, we're just on the bridge and you're just going to walk across and just don't look down because of the heights. But then when other people get on the bridge, you feel the bridge moving. That part caught me off guard. And even now when I do it from time to time, I'm like, Lord have mercy. Let me just hold on so I can get across it really, really quick. But it is beautiful. Like, I don't want to discourage anybody from going. Just be prepared. Like Tracy said, it does spike your heart rate really, really quickly, because remember, when you go down the stairs, you have to take the stairs to come back up. There's no other way to come back up to the top.
Yeah, Tallulah Gorge is actually the last hike I did before I moved. And I think that was the only one where it was just me and Anna. So Anna had one hike before she was fully solo, because Tracy actually moved after the hike before that one. For me, Pilot Mountain is my favorite scenic view hike on this side of the state. What's really nice about it, at least the trail that I've taken the club on, is it's a scenic view for like 70% of it, because it's a loop that's going around the top part of it. So if you look up Pilot Mountain, what you will most likely see an image of is this part that juts out. That's only a small portion of the hike. Like, that might account for half a mile. And so what's nice is you come around, it opens up to have this really nice scenic view. My favorite group photo that the club has ever taken was there, because it's one where I tell people it looks like an album cover or something because we're all kind of spread out just in different parts. But yeah, Pilot Mountain is nice. It's a little challenging with the incline, depending on how you feel about inclines. And what's also neat about it is when you're on the back side of it, if you're going clockwise, there's a huge area that will have a bunch of rock climbers on it. And so you can pass by and see people doing rock climbing. And it's like, oh, wow. That was, I think, one of the first times I actually went to a park and I saw people doing rock climbing outside of the gym. And so that was really neat. So I'm very fond of Pilot Mountain. It's one of those one day I definitely want to go see sunrise, sunset, or both at.
Yeah, instantly, like as soon as I saw them, I looked them up on Google Maps and just seeing the pictures that people had posted on there, I was like, oh, I instantly saved both of them. So when I do make it to the Southeast, I'll be hitting those up. And Marquise, I'm glad you mentioned rock climbing because I think for many of us, hiking has been a little bit of like the gateway to the outdoors. Many of us starting to enjoy the outdoor spaces by just going on walks in the park or hiking out in the woods, and then only to be introduced to other activities like rock climbing or backpacking and camping. And I think trail running is definitely starting to blow up. Is there any outdoor activity that's captured your attention personally that you either are exploring or are interested in exploring, or maybe bringing it as a future event?
Yeah, so for me personally, it would be backpacking and camping. I just see the videos and it's amazing how many people go to the backcountry of these different parks and just to see the beauty. And I was like, man, I can't imagine backpacking and camping that and just having that moment to just get that peace of mind and block out the noise of the world and not have to worry about anything. It's just me, my tent, and whatever else I choose to bring with me. So that's something that I've really wanted to get more into because it seems like the more people see the club, I get asked, do you backpack? And so I was like, yeah, it's time for me to start doing that. So that can be another element that we possibly add to the club in the future.
So for me, Tracy and Marquise are probably going to be like, what? I want to get into fishing more. It's something that I've done before. I dated a guy, the same guy that we went hiking together, but he was big into fishing, hunting, things of that nature. We went fishing a couple times before. I took my kids to some part of Florida, Kingsland, Florida one year. Tybee was in the area and we went and there was all these people on the pier that were standing there fishing and they were doing crab fishing too. I'm not the seafood eater of the group, but I wanted to try it because it looked really cool. So I bought like all the materials and we were down there catching blue crabs. And I was like, I don't know what we're going to do with these crabs, y'all, but this is really cool. So I'm seeing that it appears that women are getting more and more into fishing. I see it a lot on my timeline on Instagram. So definitely want to get more into fishing. I think it would be cool to do a hike and go catch some fish and bring them back home. I don't know who I'm going to give them to, but that's definitely something I want to get more into.
I've gotten into a number of things. I always call hiking a gateway outdoor activity because what's nice about it is it has a low financial equipment threshold as well. Transportation, give or take, might be a low threshold too. And so it's really nice for those things, for accessibility for different populations, socioeconomic wise. I've done kayaking. I'm actually planning on going kayaking this weekend because we've got a local park that does free rentals for 2-hour increments. And so I'm going to do that because I do not have the equipment to own a kayak and put it on my car. So it wouldn't go enough to justify it. I've gotten into axe throwing. I had a period with bouldering. I was really into bouldering for a while. That's a really fun activity. I did try archery once. I want to get back into archery. It feels cool to say like, yeah, I know I do archery. I can get a bow and arrow. So I like doing all those things. Even with axe throwing, I did an axe throwing league last year. That was really neat. I wasn't any good. I did a lot of losing, but it was fun. So I enjoy all those different things and a lot of outdoor things I'm open to trying as well. Except skydiving, I'm very apprehensive about skydiving. I have a friend who's been like 2 times and he's trying to convince me and another friend to go. We're both like, send us the photo.
Marquise, Dion went skydiving. I would have to have Dion send you his video. Tracy wants to go. I will record you guys coming down. I'm not getting on there.
Wait,
but
I'm sorry, Tracy, you want to go skydiving, but you don't want to get on the boat for a cruise?
I'm good on the cruise, but yes, skydiving, sign me up.
let's add swimming to our outdoor thing that we're going to get into next.
Well, I told you, my goal this year was to learn how to swim. I'm going to do that, and then we can talk about the cruise.
Okay.
I will have to say a group picture of all three of you skydiving would be an epic post on the website.
Yeah, Anna wouldn't let us do that. She would kill us before we could get off that plane.
Or we can go horseback riding, which is something I'm already working on for my chapter.
I'm open to that, yes.
What kind?
I'm good with either one as long as I have a life jacket.
Well, that was it for the regular questions. These last couple questions are just questions we like to ask all the guests. I feel like for some hikers and backpackers, they tend to have a regular summit routine or end of the hike routine. For some, it's carrying their favorite snack or drink. For others, it's a moment of zen. And then for a group of us, it's the favorite meal afterwards. Is there a regular custom or routine that each of you do when you reach your destination or when you make it back out?
Yeah, for me, I would say when I get to that summit or that waterfall, if I'm with the group, I kind of have like the powwow and everything. But similar to when I'm solo, I have that moment where I drift off and I just look up at the sky and I always just say, thank you, God. And just sit there and try to appreciate that beauty and block out the noise and just try to be at peace for that moment. That's like my routine, whether I'm solo or with the group. And it just always brings me that peace of mind that I need.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really get to enjoy it as much because I'm so focused on making sure that everybody's okay and, people are where they're supposed to be. It's hard for me to get out of that. But I'm the snacker. I'm the friend that has the snacks and the hot Cheetos on the trail and the sandwiches and everything. So if people are hungry or they looking for me, they can find me off to the side eating. And then when the trail is over, like the hike is over, I definitely need a good meal and a nap. So that is my routine. Every hike, I have to take a nap after.
I love that. And I'm glad you brought it up with the summer heat. I was able to share with you that I've been able to visit Decatur for a conference back in the day several times. And one thing that always got to me was the humidity. Because I think we would go like in July and August. I felt like, especially like if there was a storm coming or a storm had passed, it almost felt like a physical wall of humidity that you hit. Is that like just occasionally with rainstorms and storms rolling in, or is it pretty hot and humid throughout the summer?
It's hot as hell in Georgia. It's like that all the time. It's like that. You'll get in, your back will be wet within 5-10 minutes of your drive.
I will say
Yeah.
it's like the rainstorm makes it worse.
Yeah, I had a hike last summer, Carolina North Forest. At that point, it was the longest hike we led, 5 miles. It was only 77 degrees, overcast. It was so humid, Yvonne, let me tell you. We got to I think the 4.5 mile point. And so I'm looking around, I'm like, hey, does anybody want to take a break? People panting. No, just come on. They said we would rather get out of the humidity than take a break because we're tired.
Okay, so that makes me feel better that it wasn't just me because, yeah, there'd be days where I'd just walk a few blocks to a restaurant or to grab something to eat. And by the time I got back to the hotel, I was just drenched and I was like, what is going on? I'm glad to hear that it's a normal thing, even for locals that have lived there. It's hard to beat the humidity.
Yeah. I can also tell you that you didn't experience the worst part. South Georgia, different climate. The ocean used to come up to it. Take a trip to Savannah.
Those
The
levels?
mosquitoes are worse. Everything.
Them gnats will tear you up down there. I went to school down there in Statesboro, Georgia. Whew.
It's the mosquitoes for me.
Now, this next question is about your pack list. Is there a luxury item that you tend to pack that falls outside of the essentials for hiking? Whether it's tripod equipment, camera equipment, books, speakers. Is there anything that falls outside of those essentials lists that you like to carry on a regular basis?
Yeah, for me personally, it would be my GoPro. I got it in 2022, right before I had moved. And I remember just telling everyone, I was like, if I'm moving to Colorado, I need to get the best shot possible. And the iPhone isn't going to give me that. My GoPro is one of the best investments I made when it came to the outdoors. Whether it's the videos or the photos, it's just amazing to just see and like to show my friends, and they see the videos sometimes and how clear it is. So I gotta have my GoPro with me wherever I go. I'm one of those goofy type influencer videos you'll see where you set it up and it's like me walking, strolling, got the nice little motivational voice with it, and then I turn around and run back and grab it. So yeah, I just don't post my behind the scenes footage.
I call Tracy Mr. Worldwide because just randomly we see he posts where is Tracy at? Because that's nowhere in Georgia, that's nowhere in the Southeast. And he's just, Mr. Worldwide is what I call him.
I agree. He will throw a post in Colorado or Montana or somewhere, and we had no idea he was going until we see the post. And I'm like, where in the world? When did you fly to Texas? So yeah, Trace is definitely Mr. Worldwide for sure. But I would say for me, I just always take some type of protection, and I'll just leave it there. But that is definitely my go-to, some type of protection.
For club hikes, I'll have a little extendable phone thing to take group photos because I learned once I had my hike that hit 40 people, I said, okay, I can't do the selfies anymore. I can't fit everybody in. You're not going to be, I can fit them in, but you can't see any of their faces because I have to be so far away. For when I'm on my own, I'll have my headphones, but that's only because I don't listen to music on hikes, only when I'm doing my warm up before the hike and my cool down after. But on the occasion, if I pass by some people who are loud talkers and we're in the same range for a while, like, okay, let me put on some music for like 5 minutes until I get out of range. The most luxury of things I own is my Garmin InReach Mini. And so I use that for my longer hikes because when I started hiking, I was solo and I was going places with no signal. And my mom, who was back in Georgia, every time would say, "You out there by yourself?" And I said, "Yeah." She said, "Okay, well, you could." And so that's how I learned about AllTrails and their Lifeline feature. And then she got me the Garmin as a gift because I said, well, this tracker takes less battery from my phone and it doesn't rely on phone signal. And so that's a neat little thing I like to take on my solo hike and if I'm going on a longer hike with the club.
Now, this last question, guys, is, we're halfway through 2024 as we're recording this. Is there any personal hiking goals that you have for the remainder of the year? And then also any goals for the clubs and chapters in 2024?
I would say my personal goals, I plan to go back out and complete another portion of the Pacific Coast Highway. Last year I did the California portion for my birthday, and I plan to go back and start from San Francisco and go up to Portland. So I really want to do that. Like, I know some people are like, you drive the entire way. And I was like, it's the best drive that I ever did. And so I can't wait to do Oregon. Just the videos and everything that I've seen. The hikes are going to be amazing. The waterfalls, all of that. So I'm excited about that from a personal level. As far as the club goes, just continuing to grow it, continuing to get more Black people outside, especially our Black kids. So many of them, they never really get exposed to this. Their form of going outside, which they're being active, is playing football or, baseball or something like that. But we just want to be able to show them the benefits of what being outside can do for your life. Another goal of ours, and I know it's something I talked about a lot with the team, but I really want to bring Black Hiking Club to some more cities. It's been a blessing to see what we've done in Atlanta, what we've done in Raleigh, Durham, but people have been asking us, whether it's Philly, Washington, D.C., Austin, L.A., like they're all over the place, and we want to bring Black Hiking Club to them. And we're working on a way to do it. If there is a hiker listening to this who is encouraged and would want to do that, please reach out, because we're trying to find ways to connect with these communities all over the country.
So for my goals, I randomly started trying to figure out how I could do a hike out of state at least once a year. So outside of the Georgia, South Carolina, Florida line, because that's kind of where we are. So I would like to, if I can this year, do Arizona. I was supposed to do a hike in Puerto Rico, but didn't get a chance to do it. So I'm hoping if I can't get back to Puerto Rico this year to definitely be able to do something in another state. Our goal for the club is to hopefully be able to do some type of hiking retreat at some point. That's a big goal that I've had for a minute that I think would be really cool for us to do. And then a long-term goal that I have for myself within the next couple of years, I want to hike Mount Kilimanjaro.
For me, mine would be doing more challenging hikes. So I actually did one the other week with a separate person who put together a thing. It was about a 10-mile hike. It's the first time I've hiked and been out all day. And so that was a little more challenging, and definitely more challenging than my previous highs, which are 2 8.5-mile hikes in Texas. Otherwise, my solo goals, I think just keep going with the club. But that's a given. And then with the club goals, we actually have 4 intentions that I created for 2024 that are based on individual survey and leadership team feedback from throughout 2023. That's deepen our sense of community, celebrate the many versions of being Black, connect Black youth to the outdoors, and make being Black a lifestyle. Continuing work to push those, especially since I think those might move from just being 2024 intentions to kind of permanent tenants, because they're the type of thing that you can't really achieve them. You can just get better at them over time.
Can't wait to see what 2024 has to offer for you guys personally and for the club. And Tracy, thanks for mentioning that you are looking at expanding to other communities, because that was going to be a follow-up question. If folks are interested in maybe starting their chapter in their local communities, can they reach out via the website or Instagram?
Yeah, they can reach out via the website. I have a chapter section on there now that just kind of speaks towards the process, and all they have to do is click contact and it'll send us an email directly.
And we'll be sure to put the website in the episode show notes so people can check them out. Well, that was it for the regular questions, guys. This last little section is the this or that questions. I'm going to give you 2 hiking related topics, and each of you just choose which one you prefer out of the 2. First one is, do you prefer a steep incline or a steep decline?
Steep incline.
Decline.
Steep incline.
Okay. And then this one's the tough one, but waterfalls or summits?
I'm going to go summits.
Both.
I gotta go both.
Now, this next one's a trail system question, but do you prefer a trail with switchbacks, or would you rather just go straight up?
I like a good switchback.
I'm going to say straight up.
I'm gonna say straight up, and I'm thinking about Mount Yona, because we incidentally took the straight up route and then came down the switchback.
We did.
Now, this one's an interesting one, but do you guys prefer trek poles, or would you rather hike freehand?
I prefer freehand. No disrespect to the people who use the poles, though. I bought me some for when that time comes.
Yeah, freehand all day long. I just like to have my hands open in case anything happens or I need to run from a bear.
I'm freehand, but that's because I have yet to use trekking poles. I'm planning on doing a stick whittling workshop this year in a collaboration with a state park, so I can try it out and see how I like it.
And then this next one's about your footwear. Are you guys rocking trail runners, or do you prefer traditional hiking boots?
Give me those trail runners all day.
I'm going to say hiking boots.
Hiking boots? I've never tried trail runners.
Now, this next one is another trail system question, but do you prefer a loop trail or an out and back trail?
I'll say out and back trails because most of those typically lead to some of the best views.
I say out and back because it makes me think of the tougher hikes or the longer ones. And so when you're on your way back, you kind of remember, okay, I passed this tree halfway in, so I know I'm almost done.
I'm an out and back if the out and back has something I can't get from a loop, but I like a good loop for variation, re-Pilot Mountain, and the benefit of what comes from that particular type of loop.
This next one is about your watering carrying system, or your water carry system. Do you use a traditional water bottle like a Nalgene, a Hydro Flask or Yeti or something like that, or a hydration pack like a Camelback?
My Nalgene water bottle.
Water bottle. It's either from Amazon or from REI.
Hydration pack. How do y'all have enough water?
3 or 4 bottles of water in my backpack.
My Nalgene is 48 ounces.
Okay. Yeah, my standard backpack is a 3-liter. My vest is 1.5 liters.
These next 2 are our hardest ones, but sunset hikes or sunrise hikes?
I was going back and forth with this one. Sunset hikes.
I'm going to say sunset too. Sunrise hike, I typically do sunrise on beaches and sunsets for hikes.
I am a sunrise if I'm at somewhere like a beach. If you've ever done beach yoga at 7 or 8 in the morning, that's really nice. If it's a place with low light pollution, I've done a stargazing thing with a local astronomy club here, learned how cool stargazing is. And so if you can transition from a sunset to looking at the stars, really cool.
And then this next one is spring wildflowers or fall colors.
Georgia, we have amazing fall foliage, but what really made me choose fall colors was living in Colorado and seeing the fall foliage there. I'll take that any day.
So I'm going to say both. Fall because of the fall colors. Spring because I'm a spring baby. So it's just something about the spring and the flowers and stuff that I love.
Fall foliage, I love it. It's so great, especially when you tie the club hike correctly and the club can see it, because sometimes you go and scout the hike and the leaves are amazing. Then you come 2 weeks later with the club and you have to show them pictures on your phone. Yeah, that was me, 2022.
Right there with you, Marquise. Now, the last one is long and gradual hikes or short and steep hikes?
I'm going to go long and gradual hikes. We actually have one coming up that's an 8-mile hike, Panther Creek Falls, and I can't wait.
Long and gradual, Panther Creek, Lord have mercy. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm going to go short and steep. That 10-mile hike I did the other week was a long gradual. I was like, wow, we've been going on this incline for an hour and it hasn't flattened. And it was fine, but as much as Yona was terrible, I still enjoyed it with the steepness. It was amazing. So short and steep.
That was it for the this or that questions. For folks interested in learning more about the Black Hiking Club or getting involved, where are some of the places online and on social media they can follow the club along?
Yeah, so you can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Black Hiking Club, which BLK Hiking Club. And then you can find us on Facebook, Black Hiking Club, and then our website, blackhikingclub.com.
For the RDU chapter, we are Black Hiking Club RDU.
And we'll be sure to put all the links in the episode show notes so people can check them out. Tracy, Anna, Marquise, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. It's been really wonderful talking to you about the beautiful community that you guys are growing, both in RDU and Atlanta.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
And that brings us to the end of this episode alongside Tracy, Anna, and Marquise. We extend our heartfelt thanks to them for coming on the podcast. Make sure to stay connected and follow them on Instagram at BLKHIKINGCLUB and at Black Hiking Club RDU. Don't forget to check out the episode show notes to visit the club website and more. We have an incredible lineup of episodes planned throughout the summer months, and we can't wait to share them with you. New episodes will be dropping every Monday with occasional bonus episodes on Fridays. To ensure you never miss out on those thrilling tales, remember to hit that like and subscribe button. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to join our vibrant community on Instagram at Hikes and Mics. We'll be sharing episode visuals, my own personal hiking content, and so much more. Let's stay connected and continue to inspire each other on this remarkable journey. As we bid farewell, remember to tread those happy trails, embrace the great outdoors, and keep the spirit of adventure alive. Until next time, my fellow explorers, happy hiking. This episode's music was created by Ketsa. Follow him on Instagram at Ketsa Music. This episode is brought to you by Ursa Minor Outfitters. Folks, I'm absolutely in love with my loon mug. It's handmade. It's an absolute piece of art. Whether it's at the office or at the house, people keep asking to check it out. If you're not a loon fan, they also have other beautiful mugs for wildlife fans of moose, bears, and eagles. They specialize in products highlighting the outdoors and local pride through quality design by local artists. They've even started expanding into items beyond mugs, like apparel, dog accessories, and soon candles and more. They also try to partner and highlight other small businesses, and in some cases, forego profits in lieu of charitable giving to help their community, such as the dog rescue. So check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order. And for our four-legged hiking partners, they also have a portable silicone dog bowl and also a sweet over-the-collar dog bandana. Go check them out, UrsaMinorOutfitters.com, and don't forget to enter promo code HikesMikes10 at checkout to receive 10% off your order.